The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chaos Theory Podcast. It's actually my second episode of the day. I am joined tonight by a guest who is on a mission. This gentleman that I've got coming on, it's really the first time I'm interacting with him. We got set up through somebody who's on my show, Pac Ortega. Big shouts to Pac. Essentially, in San Antonio, we're very, very lucky to have amazing wrestling going on, from River City Wrestling to Pound Dojo to Mission Pro to Hybrid School of Wrestling. There's independent wrestling in San Antonio is the best it's ever been by absolute far. Tonight, my guest is a student, an ongoing student, and currently with Dog Pound Championship Wrestling and Dog Pound Dojo. Like I said, we got hooked up through Pac Ortega, and he's on tonight to promo their new show on January 29th. I'm going to bring him on. I'm going to let him tell you where he can, where you guys can find everything, and then we'll get into it. All right. Everybody, welcome on my boy. This guy is my guy. We just talked before stream, and I absolutely fuck with him already. My boy, Nate Nasty Nate. What's up, big dog?
What's good, brother? How are you tonight, man?
I'm chilling like a villain, big dog. I'm excited to have you on your promo in a show that looks like it's gonna be fucking fire, man. Like, there's some big names involved in this show. Tell everybody what I'm talking about, when it's happening, where they can see it, and just let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, first of all, I want to appreciate you for having me on tonight. I really thank you so much, man. Shout out one time to Pac Ortega for hooking us up, setting all this up. And so we are talking about the giant first ever Teddy Long Tag Team Classic tournament to crown the very first Dog Pound Championship Tag Team Champions.
Hell yeah.
And all this is going down January 29th at the Woodlawn Gym, a.k.a. The Pit in San Antonio, Texas. Tickets are available now online, or you can come find any one of the Dog Pound members, and we've always got tickets on us on our pocket. And so what I think is so cool, me personally, about this tag team tournament is that when we announced this tag team tournament, our general manager, Aaron Presley, back in November, he said that we were going to find the best tag teams from all of Texas. And what I think is so cool is that, like, we did. Like, we have so many big cities, big wrestling hub cities that are represented in this tag team tournament. We've got College Station being represented with Lions Pride's Pretty Boy Rock. We've got Austin being represented with AAPW's Rune Nation. We've got Reality of Wrestling in Houston being represented with the Wrestle Twins. And then we've also got San Antonio being represented as best we can with Los Misfits, straight out of the Dog Pound Dojo. And all of these guys and more teams are going to be involved in this tag team tournament. The brackets were just released last week on all Dog Pound social media. And so that's big, right? Like, we've got 8 of the biggest teams in Texas, but then on top of that, we actually have the Teddy Long going to be live in the Pit January 29th to award the winner of this tournament with the brand new Dog Pound Tag Team Championships. And that's dude, talking about Teddy Long.
Hell yeah. Haas Holding wants me to remind you the City Boys as well.
We can talk about Haas Holding in a little bit, but he's not wrong. the City Boys, who are another team straight out of the Dog Pound Dojo. If y'all don't know about the City Boys yet, on January 29th, I promise you, these guys are going to make a giant statement. Haas Holden believes that they're the underdog team of the tournament. And I'm not going to be surprised if the City Boys show up and put some hands on some faces.
Hell, I mean, you know, you got to show up and show out. That's a big tournament. And, you know, the other thing I want to plug about Dog Pound is this is a dojo. This is a wrestling academy, if you will. Different in the fact that there's not like a, hey, you go this many months and then we kick you out the door and you're graduated and you go off to do your own thing. It sounds like from talking to you and talking to other people that it's like, look, when you're Dog Pound, you're Dog Pound. You're one, first off, let's just talk about the two main people, the three people really who started Dog Pound Dojo, but the two who are every day there, that's their baby. Motherfucking Jazz and motherfucking Rodney Mack. Like, if I don't give a shit, man, woman, child, old person, if you don't learn from Jazz and Rodney Mack, wrestling ain't the business for you. It's just not.
Say it again. Say it again.
I'm telling you, wrestling ain't the business if you can't learn from Jazz and Rodney Mack. And what's real dope about it is I've watched some Dog Pound matches on YouTube when I was getting ready for this today. This ain't what you expect from a school wrestling show. This is legit wrestling. Like, this is badass, independent. We're gonna kick the shit out of each other wrestling, which is my favorite kind of wrestling.
I mean, so there's so much that you just said to digest.
Yeah.
The dojo itself, we have people at completely different levels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have guys like Alex Arsenal that are out there every single weekend getting their reps in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
They're out there every single weekend, all throughout the state, all throughout the country, representing Dog Pound Dojo. And then we've got other guys like Soda Pop Hendricks that have been out there for a little bit, and they're getting out there a little bit more, getting a little bit more. We've got guys that are my level where I'm just starting out. So I'm really just getting out there, you know? And then we've got guys that are just learning how to roll, just learning how to take bumps. And the way that this is all integrated together is amazing, because it's not like, oh, okay, so I just joined and I don't know anything. I don't know what these guys know, and I'm not a part of it. Everybody is a part of everything that we do. It is such a family-like atmosphere at the dojo that, you know, everybody is expected, and everybody expects to do their part, pull their weight, do their job, as far as not just like your personal self, you know, like you have to take care of your body. You've got to be in shape. You've got to continue to be in shape. You got to make it to practice, but then also you got to promote the shows. You got to be a part of this, because you're only going to get as much as you put in.
Yep.
And so what's really cool about the dojo is that everybody is there to put in that work. We don't have lazy guys. We don't have guys that are only half in, 1 foot in. Either you're in or you're not.
Yep.
And then talking just a little bit about Jazz and Rodney Mack. What an honor it is to just sit underneath the learning tree that is both Jazz and Rodney Mack. Super quick story. We were in Memphis for Christmas Eve, and we're backstage, and Coach Jazz comes up to me and she's giving me some advice about my match. And I'm, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And she looks at me and she goes, Nate, why are you so uptight? Why are you so nervous? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. This, relax. And I look at her and I say, Coach, yes, ma'am. But to me, you're still fucking Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and those moments, and it happens with Coach Rodney all the time. You know, he'll get in the ring and he'll be showing us how to do something, how to, you know, put together this sequence or go over this particular move. And once he flips that switch, it's like, oh, that's Rodney Mack. That's Rodney Mack. And so just to be able to sit underneath that learning tree every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the dojo is it's incredible. It's invaluable. Forget about price of tuition. You can't put a number on the knowledge that they pass down to us every single opportunity that we ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I texted Coach Rodney at 11:45 on Saturday, and I said, Coach, I got like 3 to 4 hours tomorrow morning before I go into work. Is there any way I can come over, pick up some weights that you were trying to get rid of, and can we watch some tape? I text him that at 11:45. At 8:30 in the morning, I get the thumbs up. And it was just like that. Yeah. And then Sunday morning, I'm sitting in the office with Coach Rodney and the midnight special, and we're going over footage. We're watching tape. We're watching wrestling, and he's breaking it down step by step. And so to me, that type of stuff, dude, you can't. I spent a Sunday morning with Rodney Mack watching wrestling, my matches, him breaking down my matches.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My boy JD Hoop made a good point. Having great coaches and mentors makes all the difference.
It does. Like, it really does. The analogy that we like to use sometimes is that our coaches, they're the church.
Oh, yeah.
The doors are always open, and they have proved it multiple times to multiple students in the dojo, but you got to walk in.
Yep.
You know, coach ain't hitting me up saying, Nate, come over and watch footage.
No, it's on you.
It's on me. Yeah. And if that Sunday morning didn't work, I would have made a different time. I would have hit him up and been like, well, how's Monday? Tuesday? Yeah. Let's get this time in.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, you have to realize look, wrestling is a business still. It's still a business, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody gives a shit about your success more than you do. And if they do, something is wrong with you and you need to check yourself. I think, but the cool thing about looking at all these wrestling schools, you have, I mean, it's starting to get to the point where you have absolute legends. Jazz, Rodney Mack, the 3D Academy in Florida, Hybrid School of Wrestling has Funaki. Like, these are people who have been to the show. Chris Marvel from Hybrid, who's been a Texas legend forever. Talk about, before we get into that, there's one match that we didn't hype up that I saw on the Twitter that I want to talk about, and it's Jasmine Allure versus Miranda Gordy. You talk about,
oh man,
powerhouse. Yes, Miranda Gordy. You guys, look, if you don't know who Miranda Gordy is and the lineage she comes from, I ain't got time to explain it to you. Just look up Miranda Gordy, yes, and look up her family lineage. If you don't know who Jasmine Allure is, she was the first guest on my show ever. Couldn't be a sweeter, better, amazing person outside of the ring.
Okay, outside of the ring. Because I've been in the ring with Jasmine Allure. And let me tell you something, when it comes to hard-hitting chicks, Jasmine Allure is like literally top of the line. And right next to her is Miranda Gordy. Mm-hmm. So I literally, on Christmas Day, I saw Miranda Gordy throw around 2 grown men in 2 separate matches in one night. Same show. She threw and ragdolled 2 grown-ass, skilled professional wrestlers in the same night on the same show. And I mean, when she came to the back, you would have thought that she went for like an afternoon jog. She was just like, who's next? Who's next? And you've got like a locker room full of grown men going, I think I'm good. I think I'm good on that one. And then going back to Jasmine Allure, who is another trainee at the Pound Dojo, that girl can go. That girl has sent me home sore. She has sent me home stretched. Like, I have literally walked out of the ring like, damn, because of Jasmine Allure. So don't let the size difference fool you. Jasmine's got a fire in her that she has let the world see over the past couple of months, the past year, pretty much. She has just been one of the top female talents, not just here in Texas, but in the whole region.
Yeah. I mean, and look, both of these women have been on TV. They've both seen AEW exposure. There's a reason that Tony Khan is letting these women on his TV. They fucking kick ass. Like, don't get it twisted. Like Nate said, just because Jasmine seems small and slight and she's petite, she will beat the fuck out of you. Like, I love Jasmine as one, because she's a fucking fierce. She's in the ring and she's a monster. But two, and I tell the story every time I talk about Jasmine to show what kind of person she is. We did the interview. A day later, she sent me a DM saying, "Hey, what's your daughter's name and what's your address?" Randomly sent me some stickers and an 8 by 10 autograph for my daughter. Not something that I asked for or my daughter asked for. She just did it out of the kindness of her heart. Take that and imagine learning from Jazz, learning from Thunder Rosa, learning from Rodney Mack, and imagine a combination of all three of those attitudes and all three of those ass whoopings, and that's Jasmine Allure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know what's funny is that, like, you're completely right. The first time that I met Jasmine, I was like, oh, what a nice, sweet, like, girl, you know, this is going to be cool. It's going to be awesome to train with her, and, it was all cool. And then the first time that, like, we're in the ring together for a drill, like, game switched. And it's insane to me that this type of female talent is all being associated with the dog pound. And these two chicks are going to fight. Like, this is not, we are not bringing any type of, like, attitude era, female matches. We're talking about hard hitting, like, in your face Texas style wrestling, which brings me to the point of, you had mentioned that you had seen a couple of dog pound matches on YouTube. And maybe you don't know, but you're about to. The best place that everybody can find all the dog pound championship wrestling is on the TSW Plus app. That's available for Android and Apple. It's a free app. There's amazing content on that app. I believe that you right now, for free, you can find the first 3 full dog pound shows. And then there's another paid tier, a subscription level, that you can see the TSW product itself, which is something also that we're associated with. It's a brand new concept, a brand new project that we are super, super excited to be a part of. And then you can see all the future dog pound shows on the TSW Plus app.
Hell yeah. I mean, at this day and age, independent wrestling, like, look, when I was younger, like when I first joined the Army in 2004, it was probably around actually 2007 when I first saw my first independent wrestling show. And it was a show called Maryland Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
On that show, check out the card, check out the people that they had on this fucking show. Roderick Strong was their champion.
Jeez.
They had Test, they had Abyss, they had Homicide, they had Hernandez. I got to meet all of those guys for free. They took me backstage. I got to meet a bunch of them. But there was no TV back then. No, there was no IWTV or Fight Network or any of the title match or any of this stuff, right?
Right.
Now, I've been to a bunch of Mission Pro shows. Mission Pro has a hard cam. Indie wrestling shows are having hard cams. So now independent wrestlers have to learn, where's the hard cam? How am I doing my moves? What's the placement? Are they going to be able to get my face? Is this going to look good on film? Which is dope as fuck, because now you're getting prepared for maybe AEW, maybe NXT, when
whatever
ROH
that
comes back. Yeah.
Whatever that next level is.
It's so dope. So let's get into you a little bit and figure out who is Nate, right? Where did you get this love for professional wrestling from?
Oh man. So I'm a 90s kid. So obviously I mean, the heart of the Attitude Era, really. I went to my very first show in February 1998 at the Houston Compact Center, which is now the Joel Osteen Church. And it was the WWF No Way Out of Texas. And so historically, this is like one of the worst cards in the world. Like, this is a month before WrestleMania 18, and there's no Shawn Michaels on the card. But there was Steve Austin. There was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so and like younger people, maybe not, they don't understand this the same way. But I was in the crowd. I was in a crowd when the glass shattered.
Oof.
Right. And so to be in a crowd, and that's my very first wrestling match, like live and in person. It's a pay-per-view, and I'm in a Texas arena, Houston, Texas, and the glass is shattering. You talk about putting it right in the veins from 8 years old, dude.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then it's so funny that you mentioned like the year 2003, 2004. In 2003, 2004 was when I found out also like what independent wrestling was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people don't know that Ring of Honor like had deep Texas roots in their first like 5-10 shows. Like their first year, a lot of those guys in Texas, like those are Texas-based guys, including someone like, you know, American Dragon Bryan Danielson.
I was just going to bring him up, trained by Shawn Michaels.
Here in San Antonio. And, you know, there are a bunch of...
his wrestling school out here. Yeah, that's way, way long ago. That thing, I've driven by the old location, and it's a shithole now because it's not it's not maintained by anything. But, yeah, you're talking about... Dude, yeah, you're 100%. ROH, man. ROH was ROH and TNA, early TNA.
Early TNA, oh man, early TNA
to independent wrestling. That wasn't WCW or WWE.
Exactly, and at that time, there was not. It was just WWE on TV, and this is, dude, I'll never forget. So, if anybody out there remembers, there used to be that one channel on your TV, and it was kind of fuzzy. You couldn't really see it, but most times you could hear it. Yep. And it's the pay-per-view channel.
Yep.
I would literally every Wednesday put that channel on and listen to NWA TNA.
Yep.
And then I'd go online. I'm doing it as my phone, but back then it was like this on my laptop. Yeah. And I'd go look at the pictures and be like, okay, so this is what AJ Styles looks like. And then there was a guy that was on, he was not on NWA TNA for a long time, but he was the guy that if NWA TNA and then the Ring of Honor San Antonio connection introduced me to the indie scene and what independent wrestling really is, it was CM Punk that made me dive right in. As a kid, as a teenager, as like a teen, dude, CM Punk is my guy. He's on NWA TNA, and then he's not. But I'm really into this dude because I like punk rock music. And I'm always saying stick it to the man, you know? I'm in trouble all the time for something that came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Seeing a guy like CM Punk, I dove right into the independent scene. And next thing you know, I'm looking at IWA Mid-South. I'm looking at Chikara, Ring of Honor, Gorilla Pro, you know,
PWG,
all of these you know, and then through that it trickles down, and now I'm looking at independent promotions in San Antonio. And so now there's River City Wrestling, there's TNT Wrestling, there's TWA Wrestling, there's all these different San Antonio promotions. And then like I just remember that one day it's like there wasn't. Like it was just like, oh, they're all gone now. And then it was just like River City Wrestling. RCW has been around for so long. They do great stuff. But then there was just like such a, in my opinion, my perspective, there was such a lull in independent San Antonio professional wrestling. And what's so cool to me now is that with Dog Pound Championship Wrestling, now it's like it's starting to come back to San Antonio.
Yeah.
And then as we're proven on January 29th, it's actually back in the whole state. I mean, I feel like there was a time that if you wanted to run a tag team tournament in Texas and get the best teams from Texas, you would have had like a couple of pockets, you know, like, here's 2 teams from Dallas. Here's like 3 teams from, you know what I mean? But here now in 2022, like I said, we have the OMGs come into this tournament that have taken over the whole freaking world lately. The OMGs are everywhere. We've got the Midnight Blazers, who are one of the hottest new tag teams on the scene. And then we've also got Fly Def. And Fly Def has been taking the whole state by storm. And the fact that all these teams represent, you know, Dallas, Houston, College Station, Austin, San Antonio. We got the whole map of Texas pretty much covered and being represented in one tag team tournament. And in my opinion, that hasn't been able to be possible in Texas for a minute. And the fact that in 2022, Dog Pound Championship Wrestling is NTSW are being the ones to put all this together. I think that's amazing. It's a crazy like fan story almost, but now it's like somewhere in the middle of the story, I became a part of it.
Dude, you know, it's insane to me because I started this show just kind of as a suggestion. Honestly, it was a suggestion from my therapist. Like, you don't want to keep a journal? Do a podcast.
That's
Just
really dope, dude.
Get yourself out there. Even if no one listens to it, you get whatever's on your chest off of it. I've been very, very fortunate to kind of put a foot in the door in the wrestling business, the local San Antonio kind of independent wrestling business, and I've met some very, very fucking cool people, man. Like there's a woman named Brittany Nicole, who is a bad motherfucker. If you don't know Brittany Nicole, let me tell you this. She's not a worker, but this is how awesome this woman is. And I will put her over every time I can. She is the first woman in the history of the state of Louisiana to own and promote her own company. In the history of that state. I met her.
That's history.
Yeah, I met her through Mission Pro. I met Marvel, Casey Blackrose, Alexander Crowley, Pac Ortega, Elijah Exotic. You know, I've had this opportunity to meet and become friends with some of the coolest people in Texas wrestling. And what's dope about it is it's just like yours, except I'm not taking bumps because I'm old as fuck and my body can handle it.
Nah, man, you're shooting from like the neck up. I see beneath that, bro. You got it. You got something going.
I got some flab going on, big dog.
Hey, man, they build them in all shapes and sizes. Dusty Rhodes wasn't nothing to look at neither, brother. Come on down to the dojo, bro.
Oh, look. So I'm gonna tell you this. I talked to somebody, and I've only said this once on the podcast, but I'll say it again. I want to break into commentary is really what I want to do because I can talk. I love to talk, and I love to put people over. That's my other shit is I love to put people over because what did he say? Don't use okayed as an excuse. Oh, don't use old as an excuse.
Yeah. We're getting to you, Haas. We're gonna come back around to you, Haas.
But I really want to break into commentary, and in fact, it's kind of why I'm going back to school for what I'm going back to school for, which is sports broadcasting. Because
that's awesome, man.
Dude, I love storytelling and I love putting people over. Like, and my theory as a fan, one of the biggest parts of the show for the TV audience is the commentary. You have to be able to put people over. Whether you know every single name to every single move or not, it doesn't matter. Can you help that person get over? Mm-hmm. And to me, That's the big challenge. The other big challenge is I say the word fuck a lot, and a lot of promotions don't really want that. So I have to learn how to not say the word fuck a lot. But yeah, that's my thing is I want to give back to the wrestling business because it's been so good to me. Like, and we'll get back here in a second, but I've started bonding with my daughter because of wrestling. So Mission Pro had a show not December, but in last August, and I brought my daughter to the show, and she got to meet Dulce Tormenta, and she got to meet Kylan King, and she got to meet all these incredible women. That's why I love Mission Pro as a girl dad. And my daughter, when we were going home, and I'm probably going to tear up about this because it's my daughter, said to me, "Dad, this is our thing. Wrestling is your and my thing." As a dad, that's fucking huge. So I want to give back to a business that gave that to me and my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dope thing that I don't think non-wrestling fans understand about wrestling is, dude, it's a generation building. I got into wrestling because of my grandmother. Like, it's such a dope ass thing. And the fact that Texas now, dude, Texas is on fucking fire with professional wrestling.
Dude. So it's so funny that it's not funny, but it's beautiful that you brought up the story with you and your daughter and how she said, you know, Dad, that's my thing. Because let's be real, man. I bet you I know I did. I had almost the same conversation with my dad when I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old, you know? It's like, no, Dad, this is our thing. Like, this is our thing. And so you almost brought me to tears because truth is that like, if Dog Pound Championship Wrestling and all these great promotions in Texas were around when I was a kid, when I was, you know, 10, 11, 12, me and my dad would have been at like all of these shows, especially with the type of wrestling. I don't know where your family is from, but my dad is from Texas. So he grew
Texas
up,
boy,
yeah, you know, he's from Houston. So he grew up on Houston wrestling, world-class championship wrestling. You know, that's Texas style wrestling, at least on the fan side of it. That's in my blood. You know, once I really was diving deep into wrestling, you know, my dad was the one that was like, "Hey, why don't you go check out the Von Erichs? Do you know who the Von Erichs are? Why don't you go check out the Freebirds? Do you know who Gorgeous Gino is? Why don't you Google him?" You know? And so the fact that now this style of wrestling, because there is a difference in style of wrestling.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You know, the fact that Texas style wrestling is coming back in such a popular way all across the state, I think is awesome. And then of course, just the wrestling industry in general, it's so cool to me, you know, like when I was a kid in the 90s, like late 98, 99, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing a DX shirt, an NWO shirt, a Steve. Dude, you saw all those shirts everywhere, right?
Yep.
No BS. Every single place I go, I see at least one wrestling shirt. And it's you know, nowadays everybody's got a t-shirt, and because I'm in the business, I try to keep my hand and my finger and my pulse on everything. So, you know, but there's so many different shirts, you know. Back in the day, you always had like the NWO or DX, and for a while there was always the Bullet Club shirt. You can't deny how popular the Bullet Club shirt was.
Nope.
But nowadays, dude, I swear I see a wrestler shirt everywhere. Literally everywhere. I was at the gas station on the south side of town like last weekend. No BS. I swear it. Dude walks in. There's actually a chick and her dude. But a dude and chick walk in, and she's wearing a Soda Pop Hendrix t-shirt.
That's dope as fuck.
And I didn't say nothing because I'm on the south side. I'm not in my comfort zone. But I'm literally like,
yeah,
with that guy.
Yeah.
You know, but like I see all that stuff everywhere. I see Alex Arsenal shirts every Thursday. Like every Thursday, I have to drive by the Gold's Gym, and I swear to God, there's always like 4 or 5 people walking in wearing an Alex Arsenal shirt.
Oh yeah, dude, it's getting independent wrestling is different now because you don't need a WWE or an AEW or an ROH behind you. Like think about it. When the Bucks and Bullet Club were over in Japan, they didn't have none of that shit. And the Bucks got all of their shit put into Hot Topic, and that motherfucker was gone. All of their shit sold. And these guys weren't even wrestling in the States. That's how insane that shit was. Yeah, I mean they were doing some PWG stuff and some smaller shows, but for the most part, the Bucks were in Japan and making fuck tons of money with the Bullet Club and different leaders. I mean, Fergal Devitt, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, Jay White, like these guys, you know, are foreigners in Japan selling. Dude, it's funny that you bring up the t-shirt thing. I was in South Park Mall about a month ago, and I see this kid who couldn't have been more than 12 years old wearing a Switchblade Jay White shirt. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know who Switchblade, like, how the fuck do you know who this is? And I had to stop and think to myself, oh, his parents probably watch New Japan, and it's all accessible on the internet now. You can find anything you want to watch.
Me, that's dope. The cool thing. That's the cool thing about like the modern age is that like, dude, I remember like getting like clips off of LimeWire. Oh, and you couldn't even, yeah, I know. You couldn't even get like the full match. You're getting clips of the match.
Yep.
You know, you're getting the high spots. And nowadays, you know, like honestly, it's so crazy that you bring that like New Japan up, because that kid, yeah, his parents probably watch New Japan, but I would bet you $10 that Jay White is that kid's particular like that's his guy, Jay White. Yep. Maybe the parents like Naito or somebody else, but like I would bet you money that kid, he likes Jay White. And I bet you that kid has seen like 1,000. That kid's probably seen Jay White's matches from Australia.
Oh yeah, he's probably watched, you know what I mean? Every match Jay White has had. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and to me that's super cool. And then to be on the business side of it, there's literally no reason not to be like watching as much wrestling as humanly possible.
Yeah, my boy JD Hoop says I used to download Amazing Red matches from LimeWire. Hell
yes. And then nowadays, man, like just to bring it back, we have a whole app. Not just one app with the TSW Plus app, but multiple different streaming services specifically for wrestling. Yep. And so on the business side of it, like there's no reason that you can't watch whatever you're interested in, whatever you're trying to learn. There's no reason that you can't find the history of our entire industry at every level, and then access that information, access that knowledge that's in there. And maybe I look at things a little differently because of the environment that I'm in. In the dojo, we're always thinking, we're always in like a student mindset. Mm-hmm. So when I'm watching these old matches, you know, there's things that I apply in the next practice that I saw on, you know, mm-hmm. And you know, you go to Coach Rodney, you go to Coach Jazz. Hey, will you show me how to do this, or tell him, you know, explain this to me? You know, last week, Coach Rodney and I literally spent 10, 15 minutes going over the Fujiwara armbar.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right, and you know, that was something that, of course, we always see it, right? Like, you know, it's an armbar. But I saw it in this one particular match from Japan, and it was the way that he was putting it on that really made me go, I want to try that. I want to try it just like that. And then bringing it to Coach and showing Coach, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's go find a guy that's willing to give you his arm for a little bit, and let's go to the mat. And so that it all plays in together in that there's so many of these streaming services that if you want to learn something new and you have a good coaching staff behind you, you can make all this knowledge, all of this experience yours.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about somebody who's in the stream. Let's talk about Haas Holding. Let's get to this man. Tell me about Haas. Tell me about the tag team. Tell me about everything you know about this man.
So, me and Haas Holding go a little bit back, a ways back. 2 years ago, I stepped into a training facility, and one of the first guys that I met was Haas Holding. And I'm looking at Haas Holding, and I'm like, dude, literally, dude, have you ever seen or met Haas?
I haven't.
Okay, so I can't think of a better phrase to describe Haas Holding than a shit brick house.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And then as you're talking to Haas Holding, you realize he tells you, because he tells everybody, he's 60 years old. He's a 60-year-old. He's a 60-year-old rookie. Yeah, look it up, man.
Keep going. So I'm listening. I want to see a 60-year-old asshole.
So he's a 60-year-old cowboy, kicking it in the sticks, getting dirty and messy all the time, showing up to practice with mud on his shorts and everything. And I thought that, oh my God, this is a guy that I can look up to. This is a guy that everybody can really look up to, because what a genuine, nice dude. And the fact that he's 60 years old. And so, yeah. You got him?
Brick Shithouse is, so the promo I'm looking at right now is from Dog Pound Strictly Business, Caleb versus Haas Holding.
No.
That is a jacked, that may be the most jacked 60-year-old I've ever seen besides like Vince.
Dude, you're not even lying. And the fact that he is our Dog Pound Championship Wrestling dog or pound for pound champion, he's our world champ. And he did that, which you can watch on the TSW Plus app, beating over 25 other guys in a battle royale style. And so he started number one, lasted all the way till the end, and ended up winning the whole freaking match. And so me and Haas Holding, we started together 2 years ago, and then COVID happens, and the world shuts down. And when the world shuts down, Rodney and Jazz, when the world reopens, Rodney and Jazz reopen up the Dog Pound Dojo in San Antonio. And over time, Don found himself over at the dojo. I still stayed at the other training facility. And while I was over there, I ended up transitioning over to the Dog Pound Dojo as well. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the whole time, oh my gosh, Haas Holding's over there. That's my dude. That's my guy. I get over there, and this cowboy, now I should have been nice and he's old, he doesn't remember things that well. He's lived a life. Okay, but this dude acts like we've never met, acts like we don't talk, acts like we haven't been boys, acts like we haven't cracked a beer with each other, just completely, what's up, bro? And that's why this past October, me and him had to settle our business in the ring one-on-one. Again, which you can catch on the TSW Plus app. And I put the wood to old Haas Holding. In fact, rumor has it that I hurt Haas Holding's knee so bad, he ended up leaving the country for a couple of weeks right after our match. Coincidence or not, I don't know. But the fact, and this is the timeline. And for everybody watching, you have to remember that this guy is 60 years old. I kick his ass in October. He celebrates Halloween in a wheelchair. He then leaves the country, runs off to Jamaica or something with his 47 grandkids. And then he comes back. He comes back at the end of November, starts number one. And number two is Stewie the Clown, who, by the way, is absolutely insane. He gets black mist thrown in his face at the beginning of a Royal Rumble style match. And then this old bastard outlasts everybody, myself included, and wins a world championship. The very first dog pound championship wrestling world champion. And in case you forgot, he's 60 years old. I got so excited I popped my camera. But he's 60 years old. And he's doing all of this right now. And dude, I'm telling you, I see him at least once or twice a week. He's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah.
And he's got his very first title defense that coming up on Saturday the 29th against one man Mike Dell, who is an absolute Texas legend, who is an absolute beast. And it turns out that I heard from a bird that they got a little history with each other.
Oh shit.
So Haas Holden used to be associated with a promotion, SCW, and Mike Dell was a regular at SCW. And from what I heard, Mike Dell won every championship that SCW had to offer. And now on January 29th, Mike Dell has another opportunity to take another belt away from Haas Holden. And then, wait, if that wasn't enough, I get excited about this. He can do it in front of Teddy Long.
Yeah.
He can do it in front of the WWE Hall of Famer, Teddy Long.
Yeah,
and
that's big time.
Dude, that's so huge. Like, you could beat Haas Holden and become the Dog Pound Championship Wrestling champion in front of a WWE Hall of Famer.
Yeah. And, and in front of another will-be Hall of Famer. Jazz gonna get that WWE Hall of Fame. Absolutely. Dude, if Jazz doesn't get into the Hall of Fame in WWE, I'm gonna burn that motherfucker to the ground. Not literally, please, nobody call the police, but
FBI agent, we're just kidding. It's just hyperbole.
Just joking. But for real, Jazz is, and I keep putting over Jazz, and it's so well deserved. Like, what pisses me off is people will give you flowers after you're gone, as the saying goes.
Mm-hmm.
People have a chance to honor these people, the people that they respect and care about while they're alive. Why the fuck not do it? Like, think about this, dude. Like,
dude, you're preaching it. You're like real shit. You're preaching it.
She's been here. She's been in this business for gotta be over 20 years. She's won a title
30.
everywhere she's gone. She's one of those women that I believe her if she's fighting Jasmine Allure, Maddie Rinkowski. I believe her if she was fighting some, like Beth Phoenix or Melina, bigger, more muscular women. I believe her if she's fighting fucking The Miz and John Morrison. Like, that's and no disrespect to those guys, but it's fucking Jazz. Like, she's one of those women that absolutely 1,000,000,000% deserves her fucking flowers while she's alive. And Rodney, we were talking about this before we got on stream. I watched Rodney when he was on Velocity, when he was on WWE, and
Sunday Night Heat, just absolutely running through
people. He unfortunately never got the run that I think he deserved, and that a lot of people think he deserved, and that he actually deserved. Fuck what people think. It's the God's honest truth. He never got a run that he deserved, but he made it to that goddamn show. You have to be like, look, WWE has a big roster, not as much anymore, but had a big roster when Rodney and Jazz were there. To get to that spot, to even be on a Sunday Night Heat or a Velocity or a main event or anything like that, WWE has to sit back and say, oh, I believe this motherfucker. Like, he's going to make us money. Mm-hmm. So there is something with Rodney that this is the thing about people, right? Is Rodney's one of those dudes. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. But he's one of those dudes where you watch a match, and I don't give a shit if it's independent, if it's ECW, if it's WWE. Watch a Rodney Mack match and tell me at the end of it, if your neck doesn't hurt, if your back doesn't hurt, if your knees don't hurt. That dude was beating the shit out of people his entire career.
His whole life. His whole life. You If you come to the show on January 29th at the Woodlawn Gym, you will have the opportunity to meet Rodney Mack, see him in person. And when you see him in person, I want you to remember he used to be bigger. And he used to be bigger, you know, when he was on a wrestling mat in high school and college, beast. When he was on the football fields, beast. The amount of records that Rodney Mack holds in football, in wrestling, in the state of Louisiana, in the state of Texas is insurmountable. And then and then the fact that we're talking about jazz. Okay, there are so many people, so many wrestling fans that don't fully understand the shape of the wrestling industry when Rodney and Jazz were hired by the WWE. You're talking about being over guys like Buff Bagwell, who was a massive name. Buff Bagwell didn't stay in WWE for very long. You're talking about guys like DDP, Sean Stasiak, Martin Jindrak. These are all dudes that were brought over from WCW. Okay. And then you're talking, so that's one major company that shuts down. Yeah. Then you have ECW, the second major company, shuts down. So you're talking about guys like Nova. You're talking about guys like, you know, they're
RVD.
What the point I'm trying to make is that these are guys that did not even make it past a cup of coffee in the WW, which is absolutely no disrespect to those guys at all, because all these guys are major players, and they were major players. Like if you, it's easy in 2022 to laugh at someone like Buff Bagwell, but in 1998, Buff was the stuff.
Yeah, and this is the thing that taking away from that, like, this is what gets me about some wrestling fans. I grew up. You're just about old enough to remember tape trading. I grew up.
I was a tape trader. I was recording too. I was recording pay-per-views off the VCR. I had it set up, dude. There's a box somewhere in my dad's garage with, I shit you not, over 100 tapes of first aired pay-per-views. I got stuff on tape that they edited out of the WWE network.
Oh yeah. I was very, very lucky and blessed as a fan that I grew up with my grandma. My grandmother, this is the kind of wrestling fanatic my grandmother was, right? We would sit down on a Saturday night and she would pull out one tape. And that's all we were allowed to watch, was one tape per weekend. The first tape she ever showed me was a Nick Bockwinkel promo.
Oh,
when I heard that dude talk, I said, who the fuck is this guy? Like, Nick Bockwinkel caught everything that I wanted to grow up to be. He was super well-spoken. He was very elegant. When he walked somewhere, he was respected. He held his chest. His chest was always out. His neck was back. His head was high. Like, Nick Bockwinkel, to me, and I know some of the people listening don't know who the fuck Nick Bockwinkel is. Do me a favor and go research Nick Bockwinkel. Don't leave the show, but do it after the show. And look who Nick Bockwinkel fought. Look who Nick Bockwinkel competed against, the era that he was in. Even towards his later years when he was going against a Ric Flair and a Dusty and a Magnum and these guys. That was his latter part of his career.
That was the back half. Look at the front half.
Before that, this dude was having classics with guys like Harley Race. You talk about a fucking brawler beyond brawler. This is the dope thing about doing this show and having independent guys on who are actual fans of the business, is I could sit out here and we could nerd out for like 3 hours about wrestling.
Oh, easy.
Because I love this shit so, like, that's not even getting into my super dumb obsessive fandom about Eddie. Eddie was my god. To the point that I have a tattoo designed with his initials that I'm gonna get.
Dude, that is so cool. That's awesome, bro.
he was that guy for me. And this is the dope thing about it. Think about yourself in 5, 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you never, ever go to a major promotion, there is a chance that at an independent show, you run into a kid with a Nate shirt on, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is insane to me. And you know, grew up in Texas, you're a Texas boy, you're a local boy. You could have that impact on somebody's life the same way Eddie and Nick and, you know, all of our influences had. How insane is that to think about as somebody who is really just starting to get into the business?
So it's so funny that you bring up like the mixture of like fandom and then like being a part of it now.
Mm-hmm.
So as a lifelong fan, there's so many little things that like to other people, it may just be like asinine. It may just be like, okay, whatever, who cares, right? But as a fan of wrestling, there's these little things that are just like, hold on, wait, did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the I made my debut at the September show for Dog Pound. And because I'm making my debut, I got all my friends, my family, like everybody in my life that has known me has known this is going to be it. Like I'm going to be a wrestler. And here I am doing it. And so I'm in the ring, I'm in the battle royal, I'm throwing hands with Xavier Gotti, and I start hearing Nasty Nate. And I swear, in between getting rocked, in between getting just absolutely pummeled, in my like I have to put that fan aside going, holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
they're chanting my name at a wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just like a small thing. And then the next month, I didn't even see this that night. I saw it on the back end when I was watching it back. There was a sign. So somebody had like made a sign of my logo. And I mean, spot on. She didn't just like print it off.
Mm-hmm.
She like, her and her kids made a freaking sign with my logo. My logo's not just an easy 1, 2, 3. There's a bunch of colors, and she had it spot on. And that's a sign for me in the crowd. And as a fan, holy shit, somebody just made a sign for me. And so the fact that we have the ability to meet these people at these smaller independent shows. This isn't Monday Night Raw or Dynamite where, I mean, that's, you're coming in, you're watching the show, and then they're dipping. Yeah, they're dipping. But at our Dog Pound shows, we've got a meet and greet before, we've got intermission, you got, you know, after the show, you know, you have got an opportunity to talk to some of the guys as well. And so the fact that we're able to meet these people, interact with them on such a personal basis, to me, like, that's so cool. And if one day some kid comes up to me and is like, I think I want to be a wrestler because I saw you do it, that'd be screw a contract. Screw a contract. Like, you know, everybody wants a contract. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't want a contract, but my goal was never to be a WWE superstar. Mm-hmm. AEW didn't exist when I was growing up, so that was not a thought. Okay, I knew what guys like Chris Hero, CM Punk, Colt Cabana, I knew what these guys were doing. They were going out every single weekend and they were wrestling. And to me, that has always been the dream, to be booked the ultimate dream. Like if you were like, Nate, one sentence, what's the dream? I want to pay my bills being a professional wrestler. Yep. And that's it. And if that's all it ever is to me, it was more than enough.
Oh, dude, it's so insane. Like I'm a big proponent of the changes that are happening in wrestling. As far as like the fucking scumbags getting called out, like Joey Ryan, fuck that guy. I'm never going to stop saying your name. You can send me as many lawsuit letters as you want. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, Joey Ryan threatened to sue me. Fuck him. But the changes that I dig are the fact that, one, it's a safer environment for everybody. women, men. The bullshit, the carny bullshit that it used to be is gone. It just doesn't, not completely gone. There's still some scumbag promoters out there, obviously, and scumbag wrestlers out there. But
they're being weeded out.
Absolutely.
They're being weeded out because this business, especially here in Texas, this business is blowing up.
Yeah.
And the cream rises to the top. And if being a good person, honestly, wrestling, any business, being a good person is going to get you so much further.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at Velveteen Dream. That dude was insane in the ring. Shit person. Now you're gone. People, you're toxic. Nobody wants to touch you. But the other great thing about the changes that are coming in wrestling is the fact that women's wrestling isn't women's wrestling anymore. It's just wrestling, right? It's just like, let's look at some of these women. Lady Frost, banger, just insane matches. Genocide, insane matches. Maddie Rinkowski, Jasmine Allure, Dulce Tormenta, Black Widow. I mean, I literally can keep going. The Renegade Twins. I can keep going on all these women where I'm like, you guys are fucking rock stars. It's such a different environment, and it's such a better environment. And I think the other thing that people outside of Texas don't really get is we protect our own. If you are part of what we are, if you are part of the family or friends or, you know, an associate of, we're going to protect the dog shit out of you. Period, point blank. If you're an outsider and you come in and you're a shithead, you're done. You're absolutely done in the entire state of Texas. But if you're an outsider and you come in and you're a top-notch person, you work hard, you're not lazy, we will welcome you with open arms. That's what's different about Texas wrestling is, and again, I know for a fact that there are scummy ass wrestlers still in Texas. I've had to deal with trying to interview them and it just doesn't work out. But the difference now is you have people like a Rodney Mack, like a Jazz, like a Thunder Rosa, who maybe have been through, not even maybe, have definitely been through shitty experiences in their wrestling careers where they were treated like shit. So now they say, okay, it's my turn to change it. It's how do I change this? How do I make it better? And starting schools like a Hybrid, like a Dog Pound, like, you know, River City Wrestling and all the other wrestling schools and promotions that are in Texas and all over the place. I really dig the new changes because it allows for the cream to rise to the top. It allows for the bullshit to be cut out and said, look, if this is what you're about, you're in the wrong business. Let's focus on entertaining, making money, putting on good matches, and on top of that, staying fucking healthy. Like we're taking bumps for a fucking living. Let's focus on staying healthy. So we're a little bit over an hour. I can continue if you're good to continue.
Yeah, let's keep going, man.
Fuck yeah. So let's talk about who some of your favorites growing up. You mentioned the Von Erichs, who I'm a giant fan of. And again, if you don't know who the Von Erichs are or WCCW was, please do your goddamn research. You will fucking fall in love with the Von Erichs. You know, you mentioned a bunch of people outside. Let's limit this a little bit. Outside of The Rock, outside of Stone Cold, Hunter, the bigger guys. Who are the people that you were enamored with coming in as a fan?
All right, so this is obviously like a super asked question, right? Not just on podcasts, but like in life. When you tell people that you're a wrestler. So for me, wrestling and picking a favorite wrestler is almost like asking me who my favorite band is.
Okay.
So, I mean, and I'm not even kidding. It's so like seasonal or like, I don't want to say momentary because that makes it seem like it's fleeting. It's not a fleeting moment. It's a deep-seated moment of like, you know, for example, Christmas music comes up in November, right? And plays through the first week of January. And that's when it's like, that's Christmas music. Okay, right? So for me, it's like, all right. So like in January to February, I'll be on a Raven kick. Okay. And I'll be watching everything Raven. But then like February to like March, I'm watching like Vader and Stan Hansen, you know? So, I mean, it's literally, I can't like narrow, I can narrow it down, but like, it doesn't even do it justice.
Yeah.
I think that the big thing for me, and it may sound like kind of a cop out, but you have to understand, people have to understand, people grow up in different times and different eras.
Yep.
So for me, all the ECW guys, I mean, all the ECW guys, because back in the day, ECW, that was the no promotion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk ECW. That's that really violent. That shit's real, right? You know. So literally, I just, you know, there's so many different aspects to ECW. One of my absolute favorite guys to watch in ECW is Jerry Lynn. And so Jerry Lynn is not necessarily a hardcore wrestler. Jerry Lynn is much more of a technical with a little bit of high flying style of wrestling. Mm-hmm. And when people hear ECW, they're always thinking Sabu, you know, 911, Public Enemy. But to me, guys like Lance Storm, when you know, Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, all these workhorse guys. So those are really the guys I've always been like very attracted to, you know, very drawn to. Those are the guys that, you know, I really find myself, I don't want to say recycling because again, that's a really bad word, but like I find myself cycling through these guys' matches, you know, over and over again. It's so funny that you brought up Velocity. So Velocity and Sunday Night Heat are honestly some of the shows that now that I'm in the business and I'm looking at this differently, I'm watching so many matches from those types of shows because it's a much more, I don't want to say simpler style, but it's a much more easy adjusted style in the sense that when you're flipping channels on a Saturday night, there's really not anything on because it's Saturday night. Oh, look, here's some wrestling. It's easy, hard-hitting wrestling that's easy to understand. In fact, just the other day, I was watching this killer match with William Regal and Chris Benoit, and it's from Velocity. It's from Velocity. This match is like 16 minutes long. They both ended up bloodied. They never went out the ring one time. They never hit the
shit out of each other.
Yes. And so those types of matches are the one. Whenever I'm watching wrestling nowadays, I try to find the matches that I would have been drawn to when I was a kid flipping through the channels. Mm-hmm. And so watching those real late at night, because I'm a night guy, I'm a night person, watching those, it just takes me back to being a kid and like, shh, turn it down. We're not supposed to be awake right now. But also freaking Hardcore Holly's fighting on Velocity.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you're talking, man, that period of time you're talking about. So there, you were talking about little things. There's one thing that will always stand out in my mind, and this is what made me, aside from all his personal stuff, but what really made me admire the fuck out of Eddie is probably his best known match in WCW was Halloween Havoc versus Rey Mysterio, cruiserweight title versus his match. Yeah. There's a segment in the match where Rey has Eddie's hand and he's getting ready to do a backflip DDT on Eddie. Eddie is standing
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Eddie's standing backwards. Rey runs up the ropes. What most people don't notice, is my favorite part of that whole sequence, is Eddie moves half an inch forward, and then Rey hits the DDT. And why I dig that so much is because it shows you how much attention to detail Eddie paid. Yeah. If he would have stayed that half an inch or quarter of an inch back, Rey probably could have still hit the DDT and it would have looked fine. But because he moved that little half a step forward, Rey hit this fucking spiking DDT that looked stupid. And it's something so small that most people, when I bring it up, they're like, hold on, I got to go rewatch that again to see what you're talking about. And that's the dope. That's one of the dopest things to me about being a fan. And I completely understand with what you're talking about with the cycling through different eras and different performers. Like I have that. I have that a lot because there are days where I'll randomly go on YouTube or the internet and I'll watch Keith Lee versus Shane Taylor from
years ago in a sweaty warehouse in Dallas, Texas.
Yep. There's matches there's years that I'll go back and I'll watch, you know, freaking Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA. There's days that I'll go back and I will sit back. And again, not a wrestler, but just a stupid, obsessive fan about this stuff. But I will sit back and I will literally press pause and slow-mo fast forward through a Ricky Steamboat match or an Eddie Guerrero match. And I will try to sit back and figure out, okay, why is Eddie doing this here? Or why is Ricky doing this here? Like, why is he grabbing the underside of the arm, the underside of the bicep for a God damn it. For an arm drag, just blanked on me. For an arm drag, why is he doing that? Why is his hand there? Why is he holding here? And my wife has sat down with me. She won't do it anymore, but she sat down with me and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I said, "I'm analyzing a match, and I'm trying to analyze it. Right? I'm trying to figure out why they're doing that." And then there are absolutely days where I want to watch Stan Hansen just clothesline the shit out of somebody, or JBL from back in the day, you know, give that fucking clothesline from hell. Or there's also days that I want to sit back and I want to watch Amazing Red versus Chris Sabin. Yes. Or fucking one of my favorite matches, and it's more recent than anything I've been talking about. And I can't remember who he faced at this match, but it was the first time Malachi Black debuted in WWE NXT UK as Tommy End. And I didn't know dick about him, but as soon as he came out, it was a pop, like you're in, dumb pop, and you're I was like, I said, this UK crowd knows something about this dude
that I don't.
Not popping like that. Yeah, let me find out what they have to do. That's the dope ass thing about being a fan is like you can sit back and say, if you're a true fan, like there are people who are fans that just critique everybody, and I fucking hate those people. But for me, it's like when Pac said, "Hey, do you mind promoting the show? I'm gonna, you know, da 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 da." As soon as Pac and I got finished DMing, I told him, I said, "Look, anybody associated with Dog Pound that wants to come on and promo the show, tell them to DM me. I'm good with it because one, more wrestling is fucking more wrestling. Who doesn't want more wrestling?
More wrestling, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And two, I fuck with Pac. Like that's my guy. If he's promoting something, if he's got something to put out, I'm gonna help you put it out.
Dude,
I just feel like it's the dopest thing about being a fan is when you get that chance to kind of see behind the curtain and say, "Oh, that's how it's done. Oh, that's why they do that. Oh, that's the dope shit." And now you being in the business, you kind of see how the sausage is made. You see, you know, the psychology, the footwork, the charisma, the promo. I mean, everything that goes into it. For you, what is something that you, and I try to ask this to everybody, what is something that you struggle with right now that you know you've got to get better at?
Man, that's a great question. That's a hard-hitting question, man. Taking one moment before I get to that, and I will. Yeah. Pac Ortega. So Pac Ortega, he's actually younger than me, but in this business, experience is everything. Experience trumps all. And so Pac's been around a lot longer than me, and him and his tag team partner Edgar Garza, they're the Los Misfits. They're in action January 29th, and I cannot overstate this enough. These guys are out there working their ass off every single day. And I'm going to stay on these two for the moment, the Los Misfits, okay, because I have been their practice dummy. I have volunteered myself to be in there to let them work on their moves, on their craft, and just help those guys out. And when I tell you that Los Misfits is one of the top teams in the state of Texas right now, I mean that. I would put Los Misfits up there with just about anybody. I mean anybody in the entire nation in tag team wrestling. Pac Ortega and Edgar are some of the best. And on Saturday, January 29th, they're going to prove it in this tag team tournament. Win, lose, doesn't matter. When you walk away from this tournament, I promise you that Los Misfits will be one of the teams that it'll be stuck in your brain. And that's all thanks to the training that we're always constantly getting at the Dog Pound. There's so many different things that I want to work on, because I'm always trying to be, I never feel like I'm good enough. I mean, ever. The first thing that, I'm always my worst critic, And so being at the Dog Pound, having Coach Jazz and Coach Rodney and all the other veterans, Joe Galley from the NWA is a part of our dojo, a part of our association. So having Joe Galley there to critique our promos, to help us with like, okay, so this is how you actually talk to a camera guy. This is how you actually shoot that, having that is just so invaluable. And so one of the things that I would really, really like to work on, besides, there's so many easy answers. I want to be in better shape. I want to be bigger. I want to be stronger. I want to be faster. One of the things that I'd really like to work on the most is just honestly, it almost sounds weird, but like studying opponents. So, styles make fights. Yep. And knowing who you're fighting, knowing what style that particular wrestler has, and then making those adjustments to it. We've got Caleb Smalls from the dojo, who is going to be a massive beast. I believe you saw his match with Haas Holden. Yep. That's a big dude too. Yep. And so obviously I'm not going to fight Caleb Smalls the same way I fight a guy like Soda Pop Hendricks, who's a little bit small, who's a lot smaller than Caleb, but he's a little bit smaller than me, but I mean, he's not. Soda Pop Hendricks got some meat on his bones. That boy eats. Boy eats. Soda, if you're watching, eat. But I'm gonna fight these guys in a different way, a different style. And so really studying not just these guys, but there are so many dudes across Texas that I am dying to get my hands on. One guy in particular, Luke 9. Luke 9 is out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's associated with the Dog Pound as well. You can catch some of his stuff on the TSW Plus app as well. Luke 9, I cannot wait to get my hands on and just really put a hurting on, because he has a different style than everybody else that I just mentioned. And so to me, that's one of the biggest things that I myself want to work on, is getting more familiar with different styles and then adjusting to them.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things for me as a fan and somebody who's been in love with this business for almost his entire life is the best people to me are the people who can evolve and change and adapt, not just year by year, but this is what Taker was so great at. He would adapt to his opponents and say he was fighting a Rey Mysterio, and then the next pay-per-view he was fighting John Cena. That's two different matches. It's two different styles of Taker that you're going to get.
Completely.
And it's because Taker's one of those guys, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm willing to bet my next year's salary that Jazz and Rodney are the same way, where if Rodney gets booked on a show, Rodney's still active in the ring. I see him all over promoting, right? I can almost guarantee Rodney gets booked for a show. They send him his opponent. Rodney's studying tape of that opponent. Probably up until the time he has to leave to go to that show, and maybe even on a plane or in the car or whatever the case is, right? The guys and women, when I say guys, I just mean everybody in general, the guys who study opponents but also study styles, because if you get somebody, perfect example of studying styles is AJ Styles, no pun intended. That dude can high fly with the best of them. He can kick like a Japanese strong style guy. He can chain wrestle. He can talk his ass off on the mic. I mean, you talk about a guy. There's a reason that AJ Styles has been successful in New Japan and TNA and WWE and ROH and everywhere he's been, is because he's exactly what you're saying. I'm unique and I'm able to adapt. And the same thing goes for Chris Jericho. Wrestled in Mexico, wrestled in Germany, wrestled in England, wrestled in Canada, wrestled in the States. Those guys, they last because they're like, all right, I can't wrestle like it's 1986 anymore. It doesn't work. It's not the same bullshit. 2022, it's just a different environment now, and audiences expect something different. I think the base audience still wants great storytelling and great psychology. But for an average fan, you're talking about somebody who wants to see people get their fucking asses whooped. I mean, that's wrestling is supposed to be a fight. And if you, as a performer, and I don't give a shit if you're 6 months into the business or 30 years in the business, if you can't make me suspend my disbelief and make me believe that this is a fight, you're not doing your job right.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. And so what makes wrestling, professional wrestling, more interesting than a boxing or an MMA is that you always have the possibility. There's no weight class. And so that opens up this possibility of different styles. Last week, they released the bracket for the tag team tournament. And in the first round, we've got Fly Death taking on the City Boys. And the Fly Death, man, those guys are high flyers. They're high impact. They're hard hitting. But then you got the City Boys that they're unpredictable. They're charismatic. You have no idea what they're going to do. Okay, because I've seen these guys train as well, the City Boys. Sometimes I don't think they know what they're going to do. They just get in there and it's like, yeah, we're going to hurt this guy. Oh, this looks fun. Like those two guys, Whiskey and Beano Blue, those two guys genuinely enjoy hurting people. And so they just like to be creative. Both of those guys, Whiskey and Blue, are super creative guys. And to match up this unpredictable, almost like Conor McGregor. Like Conor McGregor, you never know how he's going to hit you, what he's going to do, but you know that he's out there. That's what we're talking about with the City Boys. And then you got Fly Death over here. They're high flyers, but they're not small guys. These are big, long, lengthy, high flying dudes. And now we're going to put them in a match and we're going to see what happens. And to me, I love that about tournaments. I love that about, I love that about professional wrestling. It's almost like the NCAA tournament in March. You have all these, it doesn't matter if you're a Division I, Division II, it doesn't matter. If you're one of the best, you're invited to this tournament. And then you get all these crazy matchups. And next thing you know, you got a small school like, I don't know, Stephen F. Austin University. They've got a great basketball program. You got them knocking out a powerhouse team like, Villanova. And so to me, that same unpredictability because of the different styles plays into wrestling. It is going to be prevalent come January 29th in the tag team tournament. And that it's just, I love this shit, dude. Like I really do. This is it for me, all of it. Even being a part of it. Like, dude, I'm sharing a locker room with Teddy Long. What?
Yeah. I mean, Haas said, we are taught it's a competition. And then he gave compliments to the show. The show is great. Love the history knowledge. I'm a fan of it. Anytime, Haas, you've got an open invite. Whenever we can sit down and make time, we will definitely have you on. I'm more than happy. And super amounts of respect for you for being 60 years old and kicking the shit out of these young whippersnappers. I mean, sometimes you got to just lay the leather in. You know what I'm saying? So,
and he does.
Oh,
I know firsthand. The man hits, he romps, and he does exactly what he says he does. He romps and stomps, and there's so many different, cowboys or outlaw gimmicks, in wrestling. Haas Holden ain't a gimmick. Like,
no, at 60 years old, you can't be a gimmick. You just are who you are.
Right, exactly. And it's so funny because even just personalities make different styles of fights because Haas Holden is a legitimate, boots in the mud, redneck country boy.
Texas boy, specifically. Texas boy.
It's
different between Texas and just Texas country.
Boy. Yeah, no, you're right. But see, and then you've got someone like me. Dude, I'm a punk rock kid. I'm a punk rock guy. You can find me in a mosh pit, crowd surfing, all of that, Me and Haas Holden would never end up at the same party, but through wrestling, here we are. And you'd mentioned earlier, it's a brotherhood. Yeah. So I will talk, and I am going to talk mess about Haas Holden every day until I take that dog pound championship off of him. I'm going to talk mess about this man all day. But I train with this man. I ride with this man. I will fight this man as well. But I can say all these things about him. You, not you, but in general, you can't because you don't know Haas Holden. You haven't been there dripping sweat. Don't know how either one of us is going to keep going forward and then we move freaking forward.
Yep.
So you, the general public, the non-believers, the whatever, the haters, you can't talk that about a guy like Haas Holden because you're not in the trenches. Yeah, because even on his worst day, he'll whoop your ass. On my worst day, I'll whoop your ass.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the beautiful thing about wrestling is that there's so many different styles and personalities. And then when you mix it all together, it becomes this melting pot of just amazing entertainment. And it's amazing to be a part of it. It's amazing not just to be a part of the industry because that's an accomplishment in itself, being accepted into the brotherhood, but to be accepted into this brotherhood, to be accepted into the Dog Pound Dojo, to earn myself a spot on the Dog Pound Championship Wrestling roster, to be able to just experience a guy like Teddy Long coming down to our home, to San Antonio, and to hopefully pick his brain just even for 5 minutes. If I use this as an example, okay, if I can smoke one cigarette with Teddy Long, you know what I mean? That was
you're getting a college education
in one cigarette.
Yeah, in one cigarette. I mean, and think about the learning tree that Teddy Long has been under, and think about the people that he's managed. You're talking about Ron Simmons, Butch Reed. You're talking about Harlem Heat. You're talking about Rodney Mack. You're talking about Mark Henry, Jazz.
The pedigree of clients.
Yes, general manager of SmackDown. You're talking about a guy who refereed. I mean, this dude has literally done almost everything in wrestling that there is to do, minus winning a title. And it would be like, look, everybody come to the gym. Michael Jordan's giving a free clinic today.
There it is, right there. And honestly, in Texas wrestling right now, and honestly, it's like this whole region. It's like the whole South. Okay. Teddy Long is one of the most popular, most well-known, most respected individuals in the entire wrestling industry. But then when you talk about Southern wrestling specifically, that name goes so far. And Teddy Long, you just brought it up. the history that he brings with him, the pedigree. Like, you talked about Teddy Long for almost a minute and a half before you ever even mentioned that he was a part of the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned all that before. That's the buildup. The WWE was the latter half of his career. Oh, and it only lasted freaking, 45 years,
Yeah.
Like,
No
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he was this amazing manager, and then he turns into one of, and let's be real, for guys that grew up that are my age bracket, that are in your age bracket as well, Teddy Long is one of the most recognizable referees in history. You're talking, Earl Hebner, Teddy Long,
Mm-hmm.
Joey Morella.
Yeah.
And then he takes that, and as we talked about earlier, he evolves himself into the general manager role, the longest running general manager of SmackDown. And for people that don't really understand what that means, okay, I'm gonna pull the curtain back just the tiniest bit. Okay. The general manager of SmackDown is more than likely, for lack of a better word, a character. Okay. It's a character on a show. All right. Now, what that means though is that the company, Vince McMahon and the WWE, say, Mike Adamle. All right. There's an obscure name. At one point, Mike Adamle was told, we think that your character will bring eyes to the show, will bring people into seats, and we want to put you as a prominent focal character of our show. All right. Now, Mike Adamle lasts a cup of coffee. Eric Bischoff lasts a couple of years. Freaking Stephanie McMahon lasts the summer. Paul Heyman lasts a couple of years. And then we get Teddy Long. So Teddy Long has earned this spot because he's so well respected in the industry. He earns the spot as the character of the general manager of SmackDown. And then for years, the WWE says, you are a marketable, profitable character that we're going to continue putting you on TV in the same role for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, for people that don't fully understand that, a lot of your favorite TV shows don't last that. Your favorite character on your favorite TV show, okay,
is probably gonna die.
He's probably, dude, Sons of Anarchy, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. They're killing off the most popular character at the end of every season. They never killed off Teddy Long. Teddy killed off, okay? Teddy Long was the longest reigning SmackDown general manager of all time for a reason. And now he's evolved even more into being the vice president of Dog Pound Championship Wrestling. And he has had such a big, if you guys don't think that Teddy Long personally scouted all 8 of these teams, you're crazy. You think that Teddy Long is just going to say, oh, I don't know these guys. I don't know nothing about them. But yeah, I'll throw my name attached to them. No way, dude. Teddy Long was a pivotal part in choosing all 8 teams that are being represented at this Tag Team Classic tournament. And then not only did he pick these teams, he said that he's going to make the time to show up at the show and be there live in person to award these teams with our tag team championship belts. I cannot overstate enough how huge January 29th at the Woodlawn Gym is going to be, not just for Dog Pound Championship Wrestling, but for the entire state of Texas Pro Wrestling. This show, the ripple effect of what happens at this show will be felt the entire rest of the year. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, anytime, you're talking about unveiling championships. It's huge. It's fucking huge. And, you know, you can't really overstate, like, yes, Dog Pound Championship is a relatively newer company. It is, you're dealing with students, and you're dealing with people who are in different, like you said earlier, different phases of their career. But the one thing that I guarantee Rodney and Jazz are not going to let happen is the show be a clusterfuck. That shit is not going to happen.
Oh, bro. Oh, dude. Let me tell you something. There's nothing more intimidating, nothing more serious than Dog Pound Championship Wrestling in the back. I'm telling you, when these guys, like, when it's show day, that's a completely different mindset for Rodney Mack and Jazz, and for all of us, really. I mean, you walk into the Woodlawn Gym, and oh my God, you cannot, like, you can cut the tension with the knife because everybody is so just like jacked. Like people, oh my God. And so, and that's adding on to your point of like Rodney and Jazz and Teddy and our general manager, Aaron Presley, none of them are going to let this show or any of our shows be a cluster. You know, for those of y'all that have not come out to a Dog Pound show yet, I implore you, make this one your first one, because not only do we have the tag teams, a tournament, okay, not only do we have Teddy Long, okay, but we've got the Dog Pound champion literally in the chat right now watching us live.
Yes, sir.
He's gonna be defending his title against one man Mike Dell. You have Rodney Mack, the Red Dog, okay, and then you have all the Dog Pound Championship Wrestling superstars that are going to be in the house present on January 29th for this huge moment. And don't be surprised when, like I said, the ripple effects of this show is not just going to be setting up for a February show, okay, and it's not just going to be setting up for Dog Pound.
Yes,
this is going to set up for the whole rest of the year, for the whole state. Like, I guarantee you that if teams don't end up fighting each other on this night, you will see that match somewhere down the line. And the ripples, I can't say it enough. The ripples effects of this show are going to be felt across the state throughout all different promotions. You're going to start seeing flyers with all these cats' names on them. And you're going to be like, wait a minute, they were at the Dog. Those guys were almost Dog Pound Tag Team Champions. And then one team is going to be crowned the first Dog Pound Championship Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And then it's going to, like I said, man, the January 29th is going to be the first show of the year for us, and it's going to set the tone and the pace for the rest of the year, for the entire state.
Yeah, absolutely. Of that, I have no doubt. So I got one more question before we start wrapping up. I'm going to name off a couple of wrestlers. One, let me know if you've heard of them. Some of them are local San Antonio guys, so you've probably heard of them or have seen them around or something. But what I want to get is if you're if these are people that you've heard of, one, and two is what you think of them as wrestlers. The first one I want to start with is one of my favorite guys from here in San Antonio. His name's Casey Blackrose.
I have heard of Casey Blackrose. I've seen Casey Blackrose. I really like what he brings to the ring with his hard-hitting style. It would be really cool to go one-on-one with Casey Blackrose.
What about somebody that Casey's very familiar with, Alexander Crowley?
Alexander Crowley is another one. I definitely have heard of him. I've seen him. I've trained with him a little bit. Alexander Crowley would be another one that I think that we could do some really good stuff together.
Yeah, I agree. Chandler Hopkins.
I have not. I'm sorry, Chandler. I will Google it. I'll do my research.
Dude,
and next time I come back on the Chaos Theory podcast, we'll talk about Chandler Hopkins.
Chandler, I got a chance to meet him not really meet him, but I got a chance to watch him in a promotion called Pele Pro up in Dallas.
Okay.
And he fought Savage Gentleman Victor Benjamin.
Okay.
First match of the night, 5 stars, 100% 5 stars. It was fire as fuck. It was so dope. Let's see. Big name here, Keith Lee.
Oh yeah. So I have not met Keith Lee, but I remember. Obviously, I've heard of Keith Lee. I remember you had brought up Keith Lee and Shane Taylor tearing it up in DFW years and years and years ago. And so I as a Texas guy, I was definitely one of those guys that when like Keith Lee signed on, when he got signed at WWE, I was like, yes, Texas boy, hell yeah. And so I think that, and obviously nobody knows what Keith Lee is doing right now besides Keith Lee and his circle. But if the opportunity ever came up to go one-on-one or even in a tag to just have any type of interaction with Keith Lee, somebody of Keith Lee's level who, like we've been saying, has been to the top, I think that oh man. Like even if I just got my ass whooped, number one, Keith Lee would know he was in a fight with Nate Nasty at the end of the night. All right, but number two, I would make sure that I had 3 video cameras recording that so that I could go back and, like you were saying, pause, rewind, slow-mo, just really get into, to be in the ring with somebody like a Keith Lee, like a Shane Taylor, like a Khan, who just recently moved to Texas, and he's comes and trains with Dog Pound, and I would love to be in the ring with any of those guys on that level and just shut up. Just shut up and keep my ears open and take as much knowledge and experience from guys like that as I can.
Hell yeah. Last question that I've got. What is the biggest lesson you've taken away from Jazz and Rodney? Inside the ring, outside the ring, whatever. Just the biggest thing that when they said it to you, it's like, oh, I got to keep this. This is close. This means a lot that they would even tell me this.
I mean, there's been so much. There really has been so much. And so there's been a couple of different things that both Coach Rodney and Coach Jazz have said to me that just like really like just stuck in there. The main one, the one thing that like, it's going to sound simple. It's going to sound cliche. And so for those that kind of think that what I'm about to say is, I need you to just stop and think and remember that this is coming from Rodney and Jazz. So he looks at me and we're watching one of my matches and, he says, or I say to him, I don't like the way that I look, my actual physical shape, and he looks at me and goes, but dude, you look like a freaking wrestler. You are a freaking wrestler. That is who you are. And then he followed up by saying, there's nothing wrong, not only with the way that you look, but with who you are as a person in this industry, in this business. And that if I stay true to who I am and, really deep rooted who I really am, okay, because I am just, and I've said this once in this interview, but I'll say it again. I am just a punk rock kid that's not scared to get hit in the face. And I'm really not scared to hit you in your face. All right. And then when I'm done, I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. All right. And I'm going to go wipe your blood and my blood off of me. And then I'm probably going to go end up at like a show, in a mosh pit. And that's really who I am at my core. And when Rodney told me that who I am would make me in this business, it's not bullshit, because all your friends and family that hear that you want to be a wrestler, they're either one of two ways. Oh, you could never do that. Or, oh, you could definitely do that. I could see you doing that. Yeah. My whole life, it was a mixture of both. because I don't have my $1 million body yet. I'm still investing. Okay. I was not a standout athlete in high school or, college or anything like that. But I was always the kid that was down to get into a fight and did get into fights. And so taking that and mixing it in with just who I am and hearing somebody like Rodney Mack and Jazz tell me that that'll work. I guess that's what it really comes down to, is that when you have two people that have been to the top, the tippy top, and they look at you and say, no, those insecurities that you have about yourself, those things that you're doubting about yourself aren't true. That was one that meant the world to me. That was the one that made me really stop and go, oh shit, I can really do this. I can really, really do this. And then another big one that they've said to all of us at the dojo, and I mentioned it earlier, they really are the church. The doors are always open. You're always welcome, but you have to step in. And so that one in my student mentality, that was one that really, it burned in there. And when I heard them say that, a lot of the, I don't want to say fear, but the nervousness, because again, this is Rodney Mack and Jazz. Yeah. So even though I am their student and I am training under them, it still can be intimidating sometimes to be like, hey coach, I got this idea, right? But then they say that we're the church. You just have to walk in the doors. All of those types of things that I was feeling out the window. Because if y'all are the church, that means that I can come in and I can ask for help, and I can come in and just sit there on somebody else's, and hopefully pick up something of, for myself. But even if not, I'm there helping with, my boy, I'd mentioned that Rodney showed me how to do the Fujiwara armbar properly. A couple of weeks back, Pac Ortega was working on a move. I'm not going to say what move it was because that's not my business. Okay. Yeah. But he was working on a move, and I was more than happy to step in there and try it with him, be the crash test dummy, really just let him practice on me. And to me, that goes back to this is the church mentality. Everybody's welcome. You just have to step in and ask.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I think the great thing about those guys, and what I'm seeing a lot more veterans now, who run schools, maybe not even necessarily run schools, because Mark Henry doesn't run a school, but he was down at a Mission Pro show scouting talent for AEW, and giving advice after the matches and stuff like that. I think the really cool part is the veterans now that were superstars when you and I were growing up realize without the future generation, there isn't a future generation, the wrestling guys. And so they're more willing to say, look, as long as you're not a piece of shit and you come in and you bust your balls, and you said a word that I want to hit on before we go, earn your spot. Earn your spot. As long as you earn it, I'm willing to give it out to you. I think that's the difference between the 90s, where these independent wrestling companies were floundering and they were drawing, 3, 4, 5 people houses and stuff, versus now, where if you look at a Mission Pro show, those guys are getting 200 to 400 people. That's huge for an independent show. I think it's a great time to be a fan and obviously a worker in the business right now. You guys, January 29th, Teddy Long, first annual Teddy Long Tag Team Tournament to crown the Dog Pound Championship Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the inaugural. There's only one first. There's only one first. Do not miss this show. Do not miss this show. The info will be on my page. It is all over Nate's page. It's all over Dog Pound's page, Pac Ortega's page. All of those guys follow me, so if you want to find them, I've got Nate's Instagram and his Twitter down below running on the ticker. Nate, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your merch, if you have merch out, and then one more time about the app and then the show.
Yeah, no, man. So thank you so much for having me on. I cannot express my gratitude and appreciation enough to you and the entire Chaos Nation for inviting me or letting me be a part of this. I cannot wait to do this again.
Absolutely.
We got another show coming up in February that I'd love to come over here and talk about.
Hell yeah.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Nate Nasty Nate. And if you can't find me that way, switch it around. That seems to be a common problem. The nasty comes in the middle. It's a nasty sandwich. The only place right now to get any of my merch, t-shirts, headbands, is going to be at Dog Pound Championship Wrestling at the Woodlawn Gym, January 29th. We've got Teddy Long, who's going to be there live in person to crown the first ever Dog Pound Championship Tag Team Champions. We've also got Haas Holden with his very first title defense against one-man Mike Dell. We've got Rodney Mack on the card. It's stacked top to bottom. And if for whatever reason you cannot make the show, first of all, kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Kick your own ass. Second of all, find me and I'll kick your ass. And then third, after I'm done beating your ass, I'm going to grab your phone and we're going to add the TSW Plus app to your phone. You're going to hit like, you're going to hit subscribe, and you're going to be able to stay up to date on Dog Pound Championship Wrestling and Texas Style Wrestling all through one place.
Absolutely, man. My boy JD Hoop. This guy, let me tell you about this guy. So, any logo that you see of mine on my page is done by JD Hoop. Everything is done by JD Hoop. I love putting this guy over because the quality of his shit is fucking fantastic. Everybody, Nate included, anybody who's listening, if you need logos, if you need digital, anything digital done, if you need graphics, a graphic artist, my boy JD Hoop 702 on Twitter and on Instagram. Look, tell him what you want. Give him a little while because we trying to blow this man's spot up because he's got a lot of work. But hit him up. I guarantee you, if you want a new logo or reimagining anything like that, JD Hoop is the way to go. That's my guy. He's hooked me up. He's always taking care of me. He's done logos for Alexander Crowley. He's done graphic work for Vampiro. He's done graphic work for Lady Frost and Savage Jet. I hooked him up with Alexander Crowley and Casey Blackrose. JD Hoop is the guy. I want him. He's my dude, and it's kind of my thing. I want to get this dude designing t-shirts for like fucking AEW or WWE or ROH. That's how talented this guy is. So everybody listening, if you need graphic design work, hit up JD Hoop 702. One last thing before we go, and I do this on every show, and I'm going to continue to do it until the end of time. If you're struggling mentally, if you need help, if you need somebody to talk to, please, my DMs are always open on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I may not get back to you right away, but I promise you I will get back to you. If you don't want to talk on Twitter or social medias, I will give you my phone number. We can talk that way. Please, I have been where you're at. If you are feeling alone or suicidal or depressed or whatever the case is, reach out. I promise you got an ear in me. I don't care if I know you. I don't care if it doesn't matter. Gay, transgender, lesbian. I don't care. If you need an ear, you got one in me. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for rocking with me and Nate. And remember, the 29th, man, go be at this motherfucking show. It's going to bang. Remember, guys, chaos is life. And life is chaos. Thanks for listening.